you have the ability to see where they come and go, to track them, to see who they're talking to. You're allowed to test your children. You're allowed to drug test them. Hello, folks. My name is Pej. I'm a drug and alcohol interventionist and mental health. I help a lot of families, both with coaching them, teaching them on the do's and don'ts when it comes to having a loved one who is suffering from addiction or alcoholism or even from mental health. So today we talk about parental advice. How do you keep your kids from going down a dark path and becoming addicted, or how do you prevent that? There's various different types of parents that I've experienced throughout my life. I mean, when it comes to my own parents, I was a latchkey child. So it's like both of my parents had to work all the time and they couldn't really keep an eye on me. And by doing that, I started to gravitate towards certain people where I felt like I had more family, like within people that I met in school and such, as opposed to the family that was within the house that was kind of absent in a sense. Not that they were absent. My parents were very loving. Neither one of them were addicts or alcoholics. They did the best that they could. There was no parental guidance book for them on how to raise me. They expressed their love. But there was a lot of turmoil within the house too, which then also made me turn to drugs. And also when they got divorced, like that really messed with me as a I was like 17, 18 years old when that happened. But I know that had anyone given them advice at a much younger age, the advice that I could give to parents now, perhaps a lot could have been prevented. So when it comes to parents these days, like, I'm not afraid to say this, like, who are your kids hanging out with? Make sure that you know who they are. Make sure you know what kinds of families they come from. Make sure you know if the families that they come from are okay with their kids doing drugs or drinking within their house or drinking at all. You want to get in front of this stuff. Like, you have the ability as a parent, before your child is 18 years old, to definitely know where they come and go. I've seen more and more, especially in this day and age, in this technical digital age that we're in, I've seen more and more parents monitor their kids' cell phones. And yes, it may seem intrusive, it may seem like the child does not have privacy, but if you're paying for their phone and you have the right, I mean, they're your child and you really want to make sure, not even child, you're a youngster, you have the ability to see where they come and go, to track them, to see who they're talking to, and to basically get in front of anything that might become something detrimental. Kids are highly influenced these days. They are highly influenced. And I say this from when I see on my TikTok, the amount of footage that I put out there, I notice that a lot of kids are asking me in a very premature stage in their life, in their adolescence, at a very premature stage in their adolescence, I'm talking 13 and 14-year-olds, they're asking me things like, how do I get off of Nick? So NIC, that is short for nicotine, right? I often ask them, how old are you? Because I want, anybody that's asking like that question, I don't get that question a lot from like people in their young adulthood, like in their 20s. I get it from people that are teenagers. And when they're asking me this question, I ask them what their age is, how are they using it? Is it through a vape? It's always through a vape. I don't really get many messages from kids that are saying, how do I quit smoking cigarettes? They're asking me nicotine. Some of them are asking me about weed, marijuana, carts, weed pens, all the different ways that kids are smoking or vaping THC. So often they'll ask me, like, how do I get that? So you have to ask yourself, like, why are these youngsters turning to me to ask me how to get off of this? Because I believe that their conscience at a very young age, they grew up probably in a time of their life where somebody was teaching them the wrongs and the rights and the do's and the don'ts and telling them about the dangers of drug use and how they could become a drug addict. And so they have like this battle going on within their head of, should I do it or should I not? It makes me feel good, but I know that it's probably not going to help me be productive in life or hold me back in life. So you're allowed to test your children. You're allowed to drug test them. I mean, I know a lot of kids that get drug tested, and I know a lot of kids that know how to fake a drug test too, so you're allowed to take them to a lab. There are some people that take their kids to labs and have them tested through their hair follicles. These are things that you really want to try to get in front of, because it's not that your kids are going to turn out to be full-blown addicts, all of them, right? There's a lot of people, a lot of youngsters that it's an experimental phase. It's a time when they are basically trying to build their self-esteem. They're trying to fit in with a crowd. They see that there's a certain type of crowd that might be doing something. Some of them are drinking, some of them are smoking, some of them are doing hallucinogens, and some of them are doing more heavier drugs, or they've progressed in doing the small stuff like the drinking, and which isn't really small for a teenager. They shouldn't be doing anything, right? But they're doing weed and they're doing alcohol, and then it becomes other stuff where they might start doing some cocaine or meth, or suddenly meet somebody who offers them heroin, and heroin these days is actually kind of sort of obsolete in our world. Like, what we're seeing more of is stuff that looks like heroin, tastes like heroin, might smell like heroin, but it's laced with fentanyl. And that's the problem here, is that a kid who is hitting a vape, at the age of 13, 14, 15, 16, potentially will hit a vape eventually with marijuana in it, with THC in it, and then that could then transfer into other types of addictions. So you have the right to make sure that you get in front of this. If you see your kid not performing so well in school anymore, not attending school sometimes, hanging out with certain people, appearing to look a different way, having behavioral issues, acting out, in ways that are unusual to what you're used to with them, or they used to act out as a child, but now they're acting out even worse, where they may have this oppositional personality disorder, where they're combative, they're argumentative, they are going to fight you tooth and nail to get their way. And definitely, these are things to look for. Another thing that I've noticed, and me being Persian in our community, is Iranians have a tendency to really spoil their kids, and not just Iranians. A lot of people that think that throwing money at their kid or giving them things is going to help build their relationship between them and their loved one. This is a big mistake, because what happens is when the individual becomes spoiled and thinks that they can always get things because they've always gotten things, they're going to expect things. And when they don't expect things, they might then act out in other ways to get what they want. And they'll do it in a way to really shock you. Like, oh, you won't give me that? Well, watch this. And the next thing you know, they're using drugs or alcohol or both in unison, and really going hard and doing things that will affect them in their life. One of the best conversations that I have with youngsters when they ask me, how do you quit? First, a lot of kids, when they ask me, how do I quit smoking weed? There is a book that's called Quitting Weed. And I always send them a copy of that. A lot of kids that ask me about how do you quit vaping, I can't really tell a kid, listen, you should just stop, right? A lot of kids will be like, well, this guy didn't really help me much. But there's a book by Alan Carr called Easy Way to Stop Smoking. That was the first one. And now there's another one called Easy Way to Quit Vaping, right? And I always will send them that. And you get kids that will stay in touch. They don't stay in touch right away, but suddenly I'll get a message from somebody that says, hey, Pej, I've been watching your TikTok videos for a while and your YouTube, and I really got a lot of help I get a lot out of what you say, and I have 3 months sober, no vaping, and I tell them, keep it going, stay strong, keep that good job. That's wonderful, good to hear. But also, I have to, when I talk to people that are struggling to stay sober, they have actually become abstinent and stopped everything, I will often tell them, there's a lot of work to be done. There's a reason why you were interested in going in that direction in the first place. Maybe your insecurities, maybe some kind of trauma, maybe some sexual trauma. So if you really, really want to work on yourself, perhaps therapy would help. Perhaps outpatient treatment would help. Perhaps treatment will help if you just can't stop. And then afterwards, there's aftercare and certain communities that you can plug into if you really want long-term sobriety and you want to live. And then, there's obviously the 12-step world and different forms of groups and support groups that would be able to help an individual, surround them and making sure that they are on the right path and remain on the right path. So if you have a child or if you have a loved one who's suffering from drug addiction, alcoholism, or even mental health or, dual diagnosis, co-occurring disorders, you can always reach out to me. I would love to be able to share my experience with you. And if you need help with them and you just don't know what to do, I am a professional interventionist, and it would be my honor and privilege to guide you or help you in helping your loved one get the help that they need from professionals. My phone number is on the screen, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel where we talk about all things recovery, all different types of drug addictions, alcoholism, mental health, all of it.